Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis holds his first cabinet meeting since last week's general election. That story straight ahead.
The new Minister of National Security lays out his plans to tackle crime. That story is coming up tonight, straight ahead.
Former Prime Minister gives his last bow to PLP supporters. That story straight ahead.
Butler Turner breaks her silence and talks about the way forward. The story coming up.
News is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and his recently appointed cabinet ministers held their first cabinet meeting at the office of the Prime Minister today. The Minnis cabinet, which includes just one woman, is a mixture of new and old Free National Movement members, some of whom were previously embroiled in controversy. Jasmine Brown reports.
Minister Minnis addressed the press just moments before the cabinet meeting began, revealing he planned to outline his administration's agenda for the next 5 years.
But today's meeting essentially is a welcoming the new members here at the cabinet, and I would give them their charge and their responsibility as to what they as cabinet ministers must do.
The Prime Minister says he plans on holding those cabinet ministers to a higher standard by making them more accountable to their constituents. Minnis says his administration plans on keeping its promise to put the Bahamian people first.
They must report to their various constituencies, be it quarterly, and they must be well versed with the concerns of the people. The one on the message, it's the people's time, and we will adhere to that.
He added that just like in 1992, the FNM is once again delivering the Bahamas from what he called a corrupt regime. He acknowledged there is a lot of work ahead.
The FNM is built on transparency and accountability, and we had to free this country in 1992. We opened the airwaves, and hence you are here. And 2017, we are doing the same thing.
In addition to pledging transparency, Minnis also confirmed there would be regular briefings for the media with the cabinet press secretary.
Going forward, we have hired a press secretary that would meet with you regularly, and we will set out an agenda that I too would meet with you at certain timelines.
Now, during the FNM's campaign, Minnis said he would not take on a substantive ministry. His focus, he says, is his constitutional duty as a prime minister. He named 18 men and 1 woman as cabinet ministers. The majority of the cabinet ministers were sworn in at Government House yesterday. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The issue of crime has been a major challenge for successive governments. Today, newly appointed Minister of National Security Marvin Dames says his ministry has a lot of work to do. He also addressed speculation on the future of Commissioner of Police Ellison Greenslade in that top post. Giorgio Bain has more.
One day after being appointed, the Minister of National Security, Marvin Dames, laid out his initiatives for the next term. Noting that crime is an issue that affects all Bahamians, Dames says he plans to take his job very seriously. As he arrived at the office of the Prime Minister for the first cabinet meeting under the Minnis-led government, Dames was asked to respond to reports that the Commissioner of Police, Ellison Greenslade, would be replaced. Dames did not answer that question directly, but said he will ensure that the right persons are in place to effectively tackle crime.
I don't wish to go into that area right now. I don't think it's appropriate. You know, we have to get to the business of reducing crime. We have to get to the business of improving efficiency. And we're excited to get started. We know that it's a lot of work, but we have to make certain that during the early stages that we put the right strategies in place, that we put the right people in positions.
Greenslade has served as the Commissioner of Police since January 2010 and was Dames's boss before he resigned from the police force. The country has experienced record-breaking murder counts under Greenslade's watch. In the past 5 years, the country continued to surpass the murder count of the previous year, bringing into play initiatives like the collaboration of the police force and the defense force to tackle crime. But today, Dame said once his plan is in full swing, there should no longer be a need for defense force officers on the streets.
We have to examine that. You know, we said very early, and it's in our platform, that we have to look at the establishment of the organization. Once we determine what the appropriate establishment level is, then we can work toward meeting that level. And if we do that, there would be no need for the Defense Force officers on the streets.
Dames added that he will not rest as long as the fear of crime in the country is high.
There are too many homicides. We have to reduce that. There are too many firearms on the streets. We have to reduce that. You know, there's a lot of work to do, and we can't shy away from that. We can't, early into this administration, walk in saying that all is well.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, former Prime Minister Perry Christie has resigned as leader of the Progressive Liberal Party. During a PLP National General Council meeting at party headquarters last night, Christie took full responsibility for the party's crushing defeat in last week's general election. April Sands reports.
Former Prime Minister gave a somber yet encouraging speech to PLP supporters as he has officially resigned as the leader of the PLP party.
It was an emotional gathering for PLP supporters last evening after rallying together for the first time since being defeated at the polls.
As your leader, I accept full responsibility for our party's defeat in the general election of May 10, 2017. No, listen to me, please. 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 As your leader, I stand before you as your leader, and I declare that I fully accept the responsibility for the debate.
A teary-eyed Christie became emotional as he formally closed the book on his 4-decade political career. He said while it's a sad occasion, he's happy to be leaving behind a legacy, as he has led the PLP since 1997. He listed the party's biggest accomplishments, like NHI, home owners protection, a 40% hike in the national minimum wage, the National Training Agency, and Bahamar. Christie said while the PLP made a huge contribution to the country during his last term, he is fully aware that there are no medals in politics.
We've been beaten. We've been knocked down. But we're going to be measured by the fact that we can get right back up. How many times you've heard me say, 7 times down, 8 times up? That's because in a democracy, things happen. You win, you lose.
Christie also expressed his disappointment in those members of his party who publicly vented their frustration concern after their defeat. He says his former colleagues should know him better. As he says, leaders take responsibility.
I need to remind them that all of my life, I have been overcoming adversity. I was put out of school at 14. I had to go through the shame of going to another school and watching my parents cry for the first time. I could have given up, but they didn't let me give up. Look how good God is.
As for the PLP moving forward, Philip Davis will serve as leader of the party. He says they are planning a huge shift.
We just have to reconnect, we have to rebuild and reconnect to the Bahamian people, have them to let them know who we are, and we have to let them take ownership of this party, and that is where we are. And we have to build upon that which we have done good.
Reporting for Our News, I'm April Sands.
Meanwhile, one of the 4 Progressive Liberal Party candidates to win a seat in last week's election is condemning what he called unfortunate statements made about race in last night's PLP General Council meeting. Chairman Emeritus Arrington Minky Isaac sparked outrage over these comments. Take a listen.
Humble. I know how we go sometimes. You know, I always speak to my children, and I tell them, and check your history years ago. Who rounded us up while we were in Africa? Our own black people rounded us up. The white people stood on the sideline and watched. Well, ain't nothing changed, man. Ain't nothing changed. When we as black people gonna learn to stick together and work together. You don't see no white people supporting the PLP per se. We have got to learn the stickability. I know about him. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, with that in mind, let us give our rounding hand to our chairman, Mr. Bradley Roberts.
Well, Member of Parliament-elect for Exuma and Ragged Islands, Chester Cooper, said in a statement, while there will be much to discuss in the wake of the PLP's loss, he is in no way supporting those sentiments about black people enslaving each other while white people watched. He also dismissed the suggestion that white people did not support the PLP, resulting in the party's loss. Cooper said it is not a fitting and proper analysis of the PLP's loss, adding that the party is an organization supported by Bahamians of every racial makeup. This, he says, was demonstrated by the white PLP candidates who have served in both the House of Assembly and Senate. Cooper said many white Bahamians voted for him, and he fought a hard battle to keep the Exuma and Ragged Islands constituency in the PLP's win column during what he called a wave election. He concluded that this is the time for healing. And on the heels of her disappointing defeat in the Long Island race, former opposition leader Loretta Butler Turner is saying farewell to frontline politics. Breaking her silence in an interview with our News this afternoon, Butler Turner says she has done what she can and hopes that one day everyone would see the good in all her efforts. Here's Kyle Joaquin.
For Loretta Butler Turner, after 15 years of frontline politics, she says she has a lot to be proud of, but for right now, it's all about enjoying private life.
So as I move forward right now, it's about spending some quality time with my family, and it's about doing some of the things on my bucket list that I certainly could not do while in public life.
She has been a member of Parliament, cabinet minister, deputy leader of the Free National Movement, and first female opposition leader in the Bahamas. But after 10 years in public life, Loretta Butler Turner said she's missed out on a lot, particularly with her family. After losing her leadership bid within the FNM to now Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, Butler Turner was chosen as opposition leader in December after 7 of the FNM's MPs expressed a vote of no confidence in Minnis to lead them in Parliament. Butler Turner days later lost her nomination as the FNM's candidate in Long Island to the FNM's Adrian Gibson, who is now the island's Member of Parliament. Still, she lives with no regrets.
I'm very happy. I stand by what I've done. If there are mistakes that have been made, if there were failures, what I do with my life is I take the lesson away from that.
Still all smiles, the former Long Island MP said there are many lessons to be learned from her story, and she hopes people learn from the mistakes she has made as well as others. Though many people may not understand some of the decisions she's made, she says history will determine whether they were wise.
I know the truth. And I hope that in the fullness of time, Bahamians will come to know that full truth. Because in politics, it's truly not about whether I like a person or not. It's about doing what you feel is the right thing. I have no dislikes for anyone.
The interview was as candid and unfiltered as it gets, with Butler Turner sharing how she feels about the hand she was dealt during her time in politics. She said if it's one thing she's learned, it's that women have a completely different measuring stick from males.
If I can leave anything with our country, that if we really want to turn things around, we've got to make sure that the greatest population, our female population, is used to their fullest potential.
She congratulated Prime Minister Minnis and the FNM on their big win last week. And although her time in frontline politics ended abruptly, she's grateful to the people of Long Island and all those who have supported her over the years.
Since I was not reelected, I think that at the time I'm going back to being a private citizen.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
In other news, though, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingraham cast doubt over government's ability to pay police officers overtime funds at the end of this month, Minister of National Security Marvin Dames says the new government plans to fulfill the promise made by then Prime Minister Christie on the campaign trail.
As a government, we're committed to paying officers for what is owed to them. Outside of that, have nothing else to say.
Officers are owed for overtime worked in 2013. Dames says the government is currently reviewing the Treasury's financial position.
Well, as I say, we have to look and see where it is that we're at. I mean, I can't, from the outside in, it's very difficult to say whether there's money or not. We will begin this process now of seeing exactly where it is that we're at, what it is that we have, what are some of the challenges that we will face moving in, and we'll take it from there.
Still to come on our news, the Prime Minister's warning to cabinet ministers. That and more when our news returns.